Hello, everyone. So we have just a short time here, but we wanted to take the opportunity to walk through kind of a recap of what we've observed. And we realized it would be nice to ask the presenters that spoke to us yesterday to kind of give us their reflections. Now, the way that we're going to try to use this half hour, I sent the presenters 5 questions in advance. And I'm asking them, Martin, this is news to you. I'm asking them to respond to one of them, most likely somewhere between 1 and 4. And then eventually we're going to come around to answering the last question together, which I'll reveal what that is in time. So, and then also I should mention, because Dr. David Bennett was unable to stick with us, Dr. Christine Kim has agreed to also participate on the panel.
So, channel Dr. David.
No, you're not going to channel. So without further ado, I wonder, does anybody already know which question they want to respond to? And if you do, go ahead, read the question and then give your response. I'm not going to make Martin do it because this is his first time looking at the questions. So either of you have anything to say on this?
Maybe I can go first.
Yeah.
My answer to the number 2, question number 2, what did you hear today that caused you to think something we said yesterday about yesterday should be revised? That question that I pondered on while I was listening whole day, and I was listening really carefully from the morning and jot down and all these elements that I have to revise in my own, the theological thinking as a mission, as a resonance. And okay, the first, this morning there was a church growth discussion, and then I was thinking connecting to my own concern. By the way, I am also teaching church growth in my own context, and I cannot really teach the same as what I learned from here, because it has to really recapitulate the different way in our own context. However, as I'm doing in my own teaching on church growth, I was somehow come up with a new thinking that why don't I just exercise of all this ministry in my own missionary practice? This is how I end up with starting a new church in the house of Adullam. Right. And my concept of a resonant community or the ecclesia resonance is actually reflected in that my own experience. So that gives me a new understanding how I can apply into my own ministry at the same time my own theology. And this morning, church growth, the whole discussion really helped me to understand and also thinking more future or long vision of a resonant community. So the second one was they were talking about Bible and mission. Mission and Bible and mission, that section. I'm, by the way, I am the disciple of course, Jesus is my Lord, but Charles Benningen is my mentor. So I was just thinking of all that time, how he taught me, and then also somehow I realized how my way of reading the Bible is heavily influenced by the Fuller Seminary that I now realize, because my understanding of mission as a resonance somehow connected with my own learning from Charles Benningen, and he finding the theme of the mission, a missiological theme in the Bible, somehow that helped me to develop this whole idea. But during the yesterday comment, there's people who made a comment about the, why don't you expand these different parts of a Bible section, a biblical section that relates to resonance. And then today I just hear that, and even in the Garden of Eden and or other section of the Bible, maybe I can expand this whole idea of resonance into other section. So missional hermeneutics, it started that they were talking about mission and Bible and mission, but somehow that leads into our new very big horizon of missional hermeneutics. Some that helped me to helped me to rethink about my own topic. And then, definitely about the word Christianity. And the word Christianity, I really had really enjoyed that panel very much. But as I listened more and more, I was kind of following that the pessimism or the deep concern or is that somehow because of the how do I say the negative discouragement of the evil. Evil is so the overwhelming, and that somehow different from my own theology. Resonance as a mission is more optimistic, and my theology, I would say, a new version of a theology of hope. I would like, but my thinking was rather a microscopic approach. So when I hear the whole their discussion in world Christianity, I was kind of how I can implement this whole macro view of justice issue and economic issues or ecological issue into a more macro level from my microscopic approach. And then last one that they were talking about the power issue. Definitely, I'm totally agree with that power over powerlessness. And in preparation of my own presentation in this lecture, I was very cautious of my own English because I was worried if people will not listen because of my accent. So exactly they were talking about what that, and the insecurity that I have. But I was very happy to hear, they were just reflecting my own insecurity, but also at the same time, they were appreciative of what I have learned, and they share how I share about my own, learning. So that really comforted me. Okay.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you. So let me just pick it up from there. I'm looking at the fourth question. What factor that we have discussed so far will require the most changes within the current practices of missiology? So let me pick it from the last discussion on power and mission. And I think that listening to the discussion on power and mission, of course, all the discussions today, let me first of all commend the panels and the various discussions. I think today has been an awesome day. Great discussions, a lot of things to think about. My own vocation as a lecturer, teaching mission studies in different dimensions will have to be revised. And I think that I'm adding so much to go and expand my understanding and the lectures that I normally give to my students. I'm going back to sit down, watch the videos over and over.
They're listening to you right now.
Sure. Revise my notes together with them, and then we see how we can. I'm so happy to be part of this conversation. I want to say thank you to the organizers and thank you to all the panel. But coming back to this power and mission, I'm happy with the dimension power has been taken from, especially the statement, the power of powerlessness. And for me, it's so crucial because normally when people have power, they use it to oppress others. They use it to manipulate others. And from my Pentecostal understanding, I have seen how people have even used spiritual power to manipulate the vulnerable. But this is a situation where power is being discussed from the point of breaking barriers of abuse, breaking barriers of oppression, breaking barriers of subjugation, and rather helping people to be empowered, to be motivated, to be lifted up rather than to be brought down. And this is where I saw all the things that we have discussed so far that will require changes in the way we do mission, because I see power flowing through all the other discussions that we have taken care of. When it comes to issues of gender, we see how Jesus actually approached the woman, the Samaritan woman. And I think that the way he demonstrated power by associating with people that others will not associate with is admirable. And I like the discussion of whether the Egyptians midwives have more power than Pharaoh. You wouldn't think about power from that perspective, but this is a demonstration of power. And I think that this one should begin to make us change our paradigm shift of we understanding power. Then I come to our Pentecostal interpretation of Acts chapter 1, verse 8. You shall receive power when the Holy Spirit comes upon you, and you shall be my witnesses. So that verse is actually sending us into mission with power. But then this power, from our interpretation, is telling us that power is meant to break barriers of progress. Things that rather hold people down should be broken, and vulnerable people should be helped with power. So if I have power, what would the generation say I have used my power for? As a lecturer, as a missiologist, as a pastor, what would my congregation say me use power for? And I think these are the things we should be looking at. Then in Pentecostal understanding of empowering vulnerable and marginalized people, the power to love, they are all wonderful themes. Even the power to help people with disabilities or people living with different kinds of impairment. How do we help them? So this power actually brings our attention to every missing pieces that we need to put together and bring. Then when it comes to world Christianity, whether we are polycentric or whether mission is flowing from everywhere to everywhere, one of the most important things is that we should all understand our vulnerability and privileges, so that whether the West, Europe, North America, Africa, Asia, wherever we are doing missions from, we are all partners in one kingdom. Nobody is more powerful than the other. Where the resources are, where the human capital is, we are all workers in God's vineyard, and we should see ourselves as partners and walk alongside each other and encourage each other. The Bible and mission that is coming from, I listened to Amos Young on this one, coming from multidisciplinary perspective, where the Bible and mission touches on many things. Of course, from my own biases, I would say that Bula should be looking at Bible and mission among the generations. Then, of course, finally, church growth. All these dimensions are now telling us that mission cannot be exhausted. It's so broad, and that we are doing so well, but we should also pay attention to the things that are so visible, but we are not able to see.
Thank you, Christian. Yeah. Thanks, Martin. Are you ready now?
I'm not sure with this. Maybe it fits under question 1 or 3. I've been thinking about this tension that's been running beneath the surface, and sometimes it's not beneath the surface, but of the whole kind of 60th anniversary Missiology Lectures, and maybe you guys can tell me what you think. I perceive a widening gap that I'm not happy with. I don't think it's intentional at all. I'm concerned about it because I appreciate Fuller and the work that Fuller does, and I don't want to see Fuller marginalized. And the gap that I'm talking about is this, perhaps what it might be perceived as a widening gap between evangelicals. When we think about the 70 to 80% of evangelicals in this country, for instance, who voted for President Trump 2024, and where we're landing as in academia, so that's part of the gap. But really, it's maybe more to the point of missiology. It's a widening gap that I see between even evangelical pragmatism, right? The emphasis on more churches, more leaders, more disciples, um, and then on the other side, academic missiologies, newer emphases on things like discernment or decolonization and dialogue, right? Or I use the word like polyphony, the importance of bringing more voices into the room. And I think that these lectures have raised maybe it's a creative tension between that evangelistic urgency and missiological discernment. I don't want to put those. I'm not okay with those being on two different, ends of us. I don't like that we think of those in separate, uh, you know, as separate goals. I think our task is not to, as in missiologists, our task is not to pick sides, but to hold them in dialogue, right? I think missiology, we have that capacity to do that, to speak about the Spirit's mission in ways that the whole church will recognize as good news. So I guess I how do we continue to talk about mission as God's agency and not human management, but do it in a way that um, that doesn't marginalize certain voices, or also it doesn't cause certain peoples, certain parts of the evangelical world to just turn us off and say, well, they don't care about church growth anymore, right? And again, all of this is just this is not tied to any single thing. It's just I think, for instance, about the distinction between David Bennett's presentation and my own presentation, and the changes that we've seen in missiology over the years at Fuller. How is it that we can continue to, not reject, of course, not reject evangelism, but continue to locate it within this broader pneumatological frame. Mission is participation in God's initiative, right? Rather than managerial expansion. But we're doing our best to try to free evangelism, free mission from the technocratic managerialism, right? That technocratic rationalism, that the habits that equate faithfulness with numerical success, right? So we're pulling away, and I'm sensitive to the fact that some people might hear that. People that we want to come to Fuller, right? We want to be a part of our conversations, and I just don't want them to feel alienated by. I want them to hear that we affirm a passion for the Great Commission, right? And we're inviting everyone to imagine a polyphonic fulfillment of the Great Commission, right? Many voices, many cultures, one spirit guiding us. So I want that posture of bridge building and to be something that continues to characterize missiology at Fuller in the coming years. A posture that will help Fuller communicate, and the Fuller community communicate with perhaps skeptical evangelicals, or evangelicals that I don't want them to feel dismissed. I don't want them to feel defensive, even if that needs to be part of the conversation as well. How do we do that? Right? Maybe that's my question. Maybe it's a question more than anything else. How do we do that? How do we invite conversations about how we bring strengths that strengths from your community, strengths from our conversations together? How do we avoid marginalizing certain voices? Even with the problem of our like coded language. And by the way, I'm a culprit of this, right? I mean, using coded critique is necessary, but when I think back through my own keynote, it's my coded language is yes, maybe it allows for some honest like truth telling within communities that may not be ready for direct confrontation. But I think that when it's used unconsciously, maybe maybe what it does is it kind of recenters our own virtue, right? It kind of recenters us and how, so how can our language invite repentance without contempt? Maybe that's one way to put the question. Hospitality, right? Mission is hospitality rather than conquest. We can do that well, right? Missiology can do that bridge work. I want to see us continue to do that, specifically among the people who would potentially come to Fuller. So I'm going to leave it there. Hopefully that's a helpful question for us to think through.
Thank you, Martin. I'm going to hand it over to Kirstine because we've got limited time, even though I would love to dig into that question with you, Martin, but I'm going to hand it to you and then.
And I hope you'll make your own remarks
I will.
at the end. Yeah.
I will.
So, yeah, I've appreciated this discussion very much, and I've also appreciated what I've heard through the day. And I suppose what I'm addressing is question 5. Do you think you could just make that a bit more visible to me? Which is based on what you know of Fuller, and after being a student here in the early 1990s and having been here now for 8 years as faculty, I think I know a bit about Fuller. So what distinctive contributions are we best situated to contribute to the wider discussion of missiology in the next 10 years? It's a bit ambitious, but I think I've heard some distinctives of Fuller coming out. And one of the distinctives of Fuller is that evangelical identity, but pushing the boundaries. But I think I hear Martin's caution, and I especially think that in speaking to other evangelicals, we need to be using biblical language if we're going to be heard. And so our biblical studies faculty are really key to that. And we also need to be constructively using the word mission, because that's what evangelical constituencies are looking for. So I think one of the things we're trying to do in our 60th anniversary is to connect our past, which was very much about church growth and evangelism and so on, with where we are now, not kind of, and to reconstruct, and I heard that very much in the church planting, church growth strokes church planting discussion at the moment. How do we redeem what was good in that? How do we reconvey it in a new generation? And one of the things I heard there that I really liked was this idea of a third culture or a third way, and maybe it's because I'm Anglican. That's a phrase that Anglicans use, but I was thinking of Acts chapter 11, where the people gathered in Antioch were given the name Christians because they didn't fit anymore under Jews, and they didn't fit anymore under Gentiles. They were a new entity, and I think that's what Fuller is trying to be. But of course then they get persecuted by both sides. So that I particularly appreciated. I have liked the attention to social media, and I think Fuller is in a great place to since we've been teaching online for so long and so on, and we've got this digital forward initiative, and we're in a great place to think missiologically about all that. And that's one of the things I heard. And we also in the World Christianity session talked about the world of spirits, and of course we've been talking about power and mission as well, and I find those very much connected. How I think Fuller is a great place to be talking about that. I mean, when I was a student at Fuller, it was all about spiritual conflict, spiritual warfare. We need to revisit that and think, how do we constructively talk about this world of many spirits, and spirits which are not just personal, but political, economic, and so on. And some of us have done some work on that already. I think we're in a great place to think about the US in the context of world Christianity, and examine. We have been doing what the US is doing missiologically in the rest of the world, and also what the US is doing to itself. And lastly, I liked what I heard in the Bible and Mission session about community identity not being about walls, but what Paul Hiebert talked about, the centered set rather than the bounded set. And I think that's what Fuller has tried to be. And I hope it can continue to be a hospitable place.
Well, I'm going to try to keep to time, which is convenient for me. But at the same time, I do want to point out, everything that you all have said is resonating with me strongly. I think those are all really important things that we need to be thinking about. I keep coming back to the need to find ways to bring the ends together. There's part of me that feels like I wish we had been able to do these lectures 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and yet at the same time, we wouldn't have had the same collection of people 5 years ago, certainly not 10 years ago, to be able to have these conversations. So this must be the right time to have these conversations. But at the same time, I do worry, like Martin, that maybe some of the major players, maybe some of the major audience that we might have liked to have part of this conversation simply are no longer trusting that we can host this conversation. And I think we do need to do our best to try to present a vision that might be somehow attractive to them. But I am also led to believe that at the end of the day, and this comes from my own experience in the classroom, when I've got a difficult truth that I need to share and I can tell that a student is resistant to it, relationship trumps everything. They want to be in relationship. They want to be in a situation where they know that I have their best interests at heart and I'm willing to listen to them, be present while they process what could be for them very difficult information. And I think somehow we need to be modeling that as well in our missiology. And I actually think at a meta level, the format that we've chosen for these lectures is pretty helpful at modeling that we really do want to know what questions people have. We want to make this available as much as we can. So I think leaning more into this direction is going to be doing what we need to be in the future. So I still remain hopeful about who it is that we can be. Oh, that was the other thing. I think that we need to continue to work towards both engaging in the deconstruction that needs to take place, the deconstruction of old models of mission, old models of missiology, and old understandings of what it means to do mission. But at the same time, we need to be offering what's the positive vision, what's the proactive stance, and building that together with the diverse voices. I do think that is our task moving ahead. We'll see if I don't think I'm going to be dissuaded of that by the end of the conference, but that's really where I'm thinking right now. So thank you all so much for your contributions, and thank you all that are online and participating with us and still listening to us. I know if you're in Ghana, it is very late right now. Please do. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow. I think the next session tomorrow morning is again at 9 a.m. Pacific time, where I will be on again.
Integral mission.
On integral mission, yes. We'll have the panel discussion on integral mission, which Alexia Salvatierra and I will be hosting, and Bokyoung will be on the panel. So we look forward to seeing you then. But other than that, have a good evening.
Thank you. Bye-bye.